Hi folks, this is Don Meisner with the North Country Fishing Report. You know, I've discovered something and I really wanted to pass it on to you because I've been thinking about it a long time. And you all know that I like to fish our smaller tributaries. It allows me to get out there alone, to get with my thoughts and so forth. And I don't really care anymore if I'm catching giant fish. I enjoy the strike, the discovery, the reading the water and trying to find where the fish are. Well, one of the new developments, we've talked of other new developments in fishing, but one of the sort of in things right now is these new microbaits. That now, small baits, they call them finesse or Ned rigs. They're really little baits that you use because they look like the food that fish most often have available and eat. Well, these microbaits are the same type of thing, but even smaller. They're little 1.5 inch to 2 inch long, soft plastic baits that resemble some of the other organisms that most lures don't, that fish probably eat in the water. And in order to fish them, you have to use tiny little jig heads. They make them specially for these baits. They're 1/20th to 1/30th of an ounce, and they're designed to hold these little baits on. Well, I've been thinking so much about all the years that fly fishing was such a big part of my life. And when you're fishing flies, you're using little bitty things. But so much of a fish's diet is these little bitty things. And so this last weekend, actually, it was just yesterday that I had a chance to fish one of my favorite sections of the Grass River. The water was too high for me to really wade well. I almost fell a number of times. All the pools that I normally find with the fish in the summer, those fish had abandoned, and I really had a harder time finding the fish. But when I did, I was using for the first time these little micro baits with the lightest braided line I can use, 8-pound. Now that sounds really heavy, but 8-pound fluorocarbon because it's very resistant to breaking, and this tiny little bait. And oh my gosh, I caught fish after fish after fish. None of them were big. It isn't that big fish won't hit these because they got to eat too, and they'll eat whatever comes their way as well. But I don't think the big fish either were feeding or I couldn't find them. But I had a blast. I mean, I'm telling you, really, it's about as much fun as I can have fishing because I caught a number of fish. And I'm using a little ultralight rod. So even these little fish give up a battle. They can zing and run and jump and do all the things that are fun. If you're not a tournament fisherman, you don't want fish doing any of that because you don't want to lose them. In this case, it's a spectacular aerial and perceptual sort of battle that I feel when I catch a fish, whether it's 8 inches long or 20 inches long. It's all kind of the same. And if you go out there with the desire just to learn and to use something like this and to use light tackle, it is a blast. And fish after fish were, I mean, the water came alive with these fish when they saw these tiny little baits. So you can look them up. Z-Man is one of the biggest maker of these. It's called Z and Man, and you can go online and you can see some of these little baits. I was using what's called a stinger. Never used it before. It's a little 1.5 or 2 inch bait, and at the end it has a little tiny skinny tail that wiggles in the water. And because they're made of elastane plastic that you can stretch and pull and is really abrasion resistant, they lasted really well. Now, some of the fish were biting that tiny little tail off, and once they did, the magic of the lure kind of disappeared. But if you want to have fun, and I'm telling you, it's as fun can be fishing, try some of these little micro baits. They're new, and they really do work, and they can make the difference of whether you catch fish or not. Until next time, folks, this is Don Meisner with the North Country Fishing Report.